not afford to take a recess in between each bill. We have to keep things moving. All right. With that, we will now recognize Andrew for a 3-minute opening statement. And will the ladies that just entered please find physical seats to sit in? Thank you.
Thank you. I want everyone right now to close their eyes. I want you to imagine a system, and in this system, after 2 years of passing school, these students are set for college and their futures. Now open your eyes and ask yourself, how would your teachers feel? They work for the sole purpose of educating, but with an already guaranteed future, then students probably wouldn't give a crap. This is a loose reflection of what tenure is. It's entitled job security, given a certain amount of time, on average 2 to 3 years. I'm sure all of you have had teachers you've just begged to retire. I know I've had plenty. The fact is, tenure makes it practically impossible for teachers who aren't doing their job to be removed. The New Teacher Project declared that 81% of teachers who were underperforming weren't pursued by administration. Why? Because on average, it costs $250,000. Ladies and gentlemen, the system is broken. Tenure hinders education, and it's unfair to teacher pay. It means well, but it's crippling. It has good intentions, protecting nepotism and athletic priority, but just look at the Pimentel case. The teacher who resigned after sexual abuse before he could get fired to receive his pension. I realize these are somewhat anomalies, but because of the media's portrayal of these incidents, tenure is currently being withheld from teachers. And I don't think I have a lot of time left, but there's no point in a system which the government can legally withhold. This bill doesn't say that it revokes tenure to those already given it, but it gradually eliminates tenure. There's an argument that teachers won't be attracted to teaching after their removal. This couldn't be more wrong. My solution is efficiency wages. Like In-N-Out, wages are over minimum to improve worker morale and attract new workers. People also say that there needs to be a standard to firing teachers, to which I have 3 words: pro re nata. In medical prescriptions, at the bottom it says PRN, which means based upon circumstances. There is no standard. Lastly, if you're still doubting the removal of tenure, then ask yourself this: why is it that teachers are the only ones with this tenure? And what makes them different from you or me? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a 2-minute substitute speaker for the opponent? Yes, right here. The chair will recognize Matthew Cohen for 2 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are 4 problems with the bill we have before us today. The first problem is it's simply overly broad. And the problem is that colleges may be included under this Tenure Elimination Act. And I think we all agree in this room that tenure is necessary for higher education because it allows professors and administrators at universities to publish unpopular ideas. And that's what makes America great. We have freedom of speech, and you won't be fired because you publish something that's unpopular or unconventional. And by eliminating tenure in colleges, you're going to be decreasing the amount of new ideas that come to America and what makes this country great. The second thing is that this bill simply violates contract law. I'd like to direct your attention to Section 1, Part A. It says that any currently tenured teacher will receive 3 years tenure, at the end of which 3-year period his or her tenure will expire. That's simply illegal. The teachers who have tenure right now, they signed a contract that they would have tenure for the rest of their lives, and now you're going to take that away from them by passing the law. You will be passing the law if you vote yes on this resolution. That is illegal. Third problem with this law is it simply doesn't have any standards. I'd like to direct your attention to Section 1, Part D. It just says that it's just a recommendation. There are no standards in place. So what? We just start firing teachers because, oh, I don't like you. Oh, you're a Democrat. I'm going to fire you. There's no comprehensive system in place. And finally, our education system isn't the best in the world, but this is going to make it even worse because it won't attract teachers to California. Will a teacher want to come to California if they see the state violating contracts or arbitrarily firing teachers? Hell no. And as the speaker said right here, he said the system is broken, but this sure as hell ain't gonna fix it. Thank you. I urge your no vote.
Thank you. A 2-minute subsequent speech in favor. Yes, right here. Chad.
Chad! Yeah!
All right, the chair will recognize Chad for a 2-minute. The chair will now recognize Chad Sarayo for a 2-minute subsequent speech.
Alright, hello everybody, how you guys doing here? Alright, you guys excuse me, I have a headache from last night, too much karaoke. Okay, first of all, I'd like to start off with a nice little quote by Aristotle. He said, "We are what we repetitively do, therefore excellence is not an act, but a habit." This bill discourages the habit of excellence. Unfair to every hard-working man and woman. Unfair to you, sir, to you, ma'am, and to you. In this country, we are rewarded upon our continuous project, our continuous progress into the future. Keyword, continuous. That we must always be striving for the best. We can never let our guard down. We are here and we are going to do what we came to do, and we're going to do it the best damn way we can. Yes. Now, some from the opponent's speaker might say that it's job security. But job security, even for a job not getting done, and this is the state of our education system presently. The speaker before me said that this is going to discourage free speech because, professors and teachers will get fired for voicing their opinions. I do not agree with that. Most colleges hire people who are likely conservative like them or likely liberal like them. They want professors and teachers that are going to represent their school. So if they publish something that's controversial, it's usually not the norm. Also, tenure gives a teacher full discretion on how to run their class, even if it's bad, without the possibility of getting fired. Now, how do you feel about that? I know every single one of you has had a teacher that just did not put in the effort, and you wanted them so much to be held accountable, to do something, and not just watch movies for the entire year. And lastly, before I leave this stage, I want to say, you have to earn your grades every year. Why are your teachers exempt?
Do we have a 2-minute subsequent for the opponents? Yes. Oh, sir, your name tag? Thank you.
Chad.
Thank you. Sir. All right. We have an amendment for the bill, and the way amendments work is I read it, and then we vote on it, and we have to get at least a 3/4 majority. Okay, so, amendment. Contract law, all currently under tenure retain it. Who wrote this? Can someone clarify? Shh.
Probably talked about how this could include colleges, where many instances specific, so that's teachers and
Okay, so this is solely for high school, correct? Elementary, got it. Solely for elementary education. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, we're gonna, yes. Yes, okay, so, we're gonna vote on this, so all of those in favor of this amendment, please rise.
Is it high school and under, or is it elementary?
Yeah.
Elementary is considered high school and lower.
So high school,
No, that's weird.
yeah, I know, we call it elementary school, but it's like preschool to 12th grade. So this would not apply to college professors. Yeah, so, and guys, we're just gonna, yeah. Yes. I think this is it. All right, it's definitely more than 3/4. So everybody focus. For clarification, this amendment now only applies to elementary education, which is preschool through 12th grade. Okay, so we have to run this over to the full Senate, and if it passes in the full Senate, then it'll be an amendment to the bill. All right. Thank you for waiting. We now have a 2-minute subsequent speech for the opponency?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you all doing today? So, let's talk about teacher tenure for a bit. When we think about tenure, we're thinking this guy's been a teacher for 30 years. He's been teaching chemistry, or he's been teaching biology or math for 30 years, same way, same style. When I think of tenure, I think of this man has been in teaching for 30 years. He knows how students work. He knows how the subject is run. He knows the ins and outs of his subject. The man knows his craft. So why are we going to take tenure away? Tenure allows us to know that our teachers actually know what they're doing. I would much rather have a teacher with tenure in biology, let's say, than to have some new teacher come into my high school telling me about evolution, when clearly I don't know if this guy knows his stuff or not. At least with the tenure, I know that if this man has been teaching evolution and evolutionary sciences or biology for 30 years, I at least know that I at least have the confidence that I'm getting the information I need to pass the CSTs or my standardized test. You get one time of questions?
You have about 30 seconds. Any questions for the speaker?
Are credentials in place to let you know if the teacher actually knows your subject?
Indeed. But, a little personal anecdote. Middle school, one of my history teachers was fully credentialed, but she didn't know anything that she was talking about. We had to correct her on multiple occasions.
All right, the speaker's time is elapsed. Thank you. All right. Are there any motions on the floor? All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, we'll now move to a 2-minute closing speech by Derek Wood.
Let's go, Chico! Yes, Derek.
A quick note, the amendment did pass in the Senate, so the bill has been amended so that this only applies to elementary education, meaning preschool through 12th grade. So please bear that in mind as we're voting.
Hey, listen up, I got something to say. It's about teacher tenure, which has failed us today. Ain't no way we can fix this system of shit, but this bill, take a look, it's actually legit. Tenure is unfair to both teachers and students, so be prudent and don't believe Cohen's lies. It breeds teachers be irresponsible and unwise, leading to a quality educational demise. It's a surprise tenure has lasted thus far. I call for teachers to be up to par. I expect them to be educational, positive, and sincere, not to be scoping on that biddy's derriere. My grades, my college are important to me. Removal of the tenure, I ask you to see. This be a system, crippled, protecting the criminals, even paying the pension of the overly physical. So please with me and let us all be free. Think of all your younger brothers and sisters, protect them from the over-sexual misters. So vote for this bill and improve our schools, not to put our future in the hands of some fool. It's our turn to step up and make up the rules. And as the wise man Kevin Gu once said, God bless America. Thank you. It's a bill to eliminate teacher tenure for specifically elementary education.
education. All of those in support of this bill, please rise.
I know, the other side. Like, I don't want to. I think the law. Yeah, I'm voting on. I think.
Please be seated. All those opposed? All those abstain, please be seated. All those abstain? All right, this bill passes with a vote of 180 to 34. All right, moving on. And also a reminder to the full House, we expect utmost respect at all time, not only in your audience behavior, but also with speeches. And while it's perfectly okay to oppose another person's viewpoint, we try to avoid slandering the person directly or devalidating anything that they have to say. Also, if a person stands against a bill and you do not agree with them, booing is not necessary, and we do not have any problems escorting you outside, and we can have a nice conversation about respect and statesmanship. So, with that, we will move on. A bill to improve voter turnout in the United States. Alex? All right, we will now recognize Alexander Gatticlaw for a 3-minute opening statement.
Hi guys. So my bill is to improve voter turnout in the United States. Basically, it moves the national voting day from Tuesday to the first full weekend of November. National polls would open at 7 a.m. on Saturday and close on 8 p.m. on Sunday. What this bill does, it helps people to vote on election day because on Tuesday, most people are busy. In a 2010 poll, 27% of non-voters said that their number one reason for not voting was because they didn't have time, or they couldn't get to the polls, or couldn't get off work. What this bill does, it helps people to have 2 days to vote. So now, for example, if you're religious and you have to go to church on Sunday, you can vote on Saturday. If you're Jewish and you can't vote on Saturday, you can vote on Sunday. And for work, you can get hours off from work. Now you have 2 days to plan out when you can get off from work. It helps people like single mothers or people who work overtime. It helps these busy people to get to the polls. The U.S. is ranked 138 out of 172 nations for voter turnout. That is very, very low for one of the oldest democracy in the modern era. The U.S. also ranks dead last in voter turnout against the G8. This is behind France, Germany, Thailand, Japan, and even Russia. Come on, we're better. Seriously. This bill would also help voters in the 15 states where Tuesday is the only voting day as their option. Basically, they can't do early voting. 15 states don't allow that. This will help those people in those states. They will now have 2 days, which basically means that they can impact their lives through voting, which is a basic right of Americans. We came to America to change our lives, and this bill will allow us to be more influential in our politics and affect our well-being in the future. Thank you.
All right, we will now hear a 2-minute subsequent speech from the proponency. Oh, and also, as a side note, the teacher tenure bill did pass in the full Senate. So that's one of our first pieces of legislation to be official. All right, any speakers for the opponency, excuse me. Do either of you have notes? John. You'll get plenty of time to speak there. All right, John.
Hello, my name is John and I go to Santiago High School. I am completely against this resolution because I believe it's irrelevant. Even though some people might have work on Tuesday and won't be able to go in, they can still do mail-in voting. We shouldn't destroy all of the tradition we've had for years of having this sacred day for voting just so some people who are too lazy to do mail-in voting can go in on the weekend. When honestly, I think it might be easier to do a mail-in vote than actually have to get in your car or walk to a voting place. Just get the form in the mail and send it in. It's that simple. We really don't need to change anything. I yield my time to questions.
Are there any questions for the speaker?
Mail-in voting is only legal or like allowed in certain states. So this would actually help the people in the states where mail-in voting isn't an option.
Is there a question?
Or how do you feel about that?
I would say that we should make mail-in voting available in all states rather than changing the day that we vote on.
Speaker aware that's decided within the states, not by the president.
Then states should allow it.
Yes.
In the nature of the Ninth Amendment, would you say that it's constitutional for the federal government to be interfering with voting rights?
Could you repeat the question?
Given the nature of the Ninth Amendment, would you say that the federal government has the right to control voting within the states?
I would say no, it should still be up to the states, but I think it would be a good decision for states to allow mail-in voting rather than changing the day that we actually vote on.
The speaker's time has elapsed. Thank you. All right. Are there any subsequent proponency speakers? Yes. Danielle Hamidi. All right. The chair recognizes Danielle Hamidi for 2 minutes.
I don't care if you're lazy. I don't care about any of your personal attributes. All I care is that you are a U.S. citizen and that you should have the right to vote. And if allowing 2 days to vote is going to get you to vote, 2 days on the weekend when you have more time off, then I think that's perfect. Because I want my leaders in my country to represent the needs and the wills and the beliefs of the citizens. And plus, the previous speaker has argued that, oh, the people are just lazy because they can, vote by mail. Well, what if you're that kind of person, like me, who likes to go to the voting booth, feel patriotic, receive the sticker, post a picture on Facebook, You should be given that opportunity one more day to go do that and go post that picture on Facebook. Please affirm this bill. Thank you.
How does the speaker propose to find people to work for officials in the night between Saturday and Sunday?
Oh, actually, people from my chapter, they didn't volunteer, but they signed up to go vote. They actually missed their entire school day on Tuesday, not vote, they worked at polls, and they missed their entire school day on Tuesday to go do that for like a very, very low salary, but they did that. I'm sure that there's tons of people, like students, who'd be willing to go in on a weekend, especially since there's no school, and actually go work at polls.
Yes.
Excuse me, can you repeat that?
Would the speaker prefer that voting be made mandatory for all citizens?
I mean,
Everyone exercises their right.
I think that this is a step towards the right direction. I don't really have an opinion on that, but like this is a step definitely towards the right direction in getting more people to vote.
Alright, any subsequent speakers? Yes. The chair recognizes Bayong Choi for 2 minutes.
Alright, hi everybody. My name is Byung Choi from Santiago High School. So the previous speaker brought up a lot of rhetoric about freedom and patriotism and Facebook. But unfortunately, that was all it was. It was rhetoric. If you really want to talk about patriotism, why don't we look to the very basis of our law, the Constitution, the very document which formed our government. According to the 9th Amendment, all rights that are not specifically delegated to the federal government within the Constitution shall be delegated to the states. In other words, voting rights, or setting up voting days, for example, is actually not delegated to the Constitution, to the federal government. Therefore, states have the right to hold their own voting days. So a bill on a federal level which begins to interfere on the voting rights of, or the states' rights to change the voting day is inherently unconstitutional. And so if we cannot pass a bill that's unconstitutional, if you really want to talk about patriotism, if you really want to talk about America, if you really want to talk about, advancing this nation, then read the Constitution. Ask yourself, what does our government stand for? And one of the things we stand for is dual federalism. That the idea that the government is not just in the federal government, but also in the states. And we delegated this right to the states, and it is unconstitutional to fight that. Thank you. I yield my time to question.
Any questions for the speaker? Yes.
Is the speaker aware of the elasticity clause in the Constitution?
Yes, the speaker is aware of the elasticity clause in the Constitution. Thank you. Unfortunately, voter turnout is not, any sort of right delegated within the Constitution, and since the elastic clause only states specifically to carry out the duties appointed to Congress within the Constitution, which, voter turnout is not one of them, I don't see how it's relevant.
Unless there is a motion on the floor. Yes, we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, the nays have it. I'm sorry, Bayong. All right. We have an amendment for this bill. It says instead of changing the day of voting, that mail-in ballots should be nationalized. All right, is everybody clear one more time? Instead of changing the day of voting, mail-in ballots should be nationalized. All right, thank you for voicing your opinions. We're about to vote. All right, all those in favor of this amendment, please rise. All right, all those opposed? All those abstain? All right, thank you. Are there any motions on the floor? Can I get a second? All those in favor? All opposed? All right, we will now move to the previous question. The chair recognizes Alex for a 2-minute closing statement.
Okay,
so I can't do like the really cool thing that the other speaker did before me. I can't wrap it up. So basically, I'll address some of the concerns. Number one, the Congress actually in 1845 decided on a national election day. This is taken from Congress in 1845. If it wasn't unconstitutional back then, it's not unconstitutional now. It's not part of a constitution amendment. This is simply a bill. Yes. Okay. Second one. If you're not by not passing this bill, you're disenfranchising voters in the 15 states that do not have mail-in voting. Basically, it's kind of like those legal things where you're not allowing people to vote, and I think that's an infringement on our rights, on our basic liberties. It's basically infringing on how we choose to live our life. Voting, we vote to express our opinions, to make our lives better. By passing this bill, you will give people an extra day, more time to change. To affect them. Basically, what else do I have left? I mean, there's not really much left. By passing this bill, you're allowing more people to vote, and I think that's a really good thing. I want more voter participation. I like JSA. I want people to be more influenced, more involved in politics, and I don't want to waste any more of your time. Please vote yes on this bill.
All right, we've now voted on the bill. All those in favor, please rise.
That's shocking.
What?
All those abstain? All right. With a vote of 173 to 33 to 19, this bill passes. Ladies and gentlemen, just another note. Technically, with Full House, we're supposed to seal the doors of the chamber, and anytime you want to leave, you have to ask for a point of personal privilege. But in the interest of time, we're not going to do that. So with that, I just ask that if you need to get up to go to the bathroom or get a drink of water, please do that in between speeches, and please wait until you hear applause to come back in. And also, please no leaving the room during voting, because we can't get an accurate count with all these bodies moving around. So thank you. All right, on to the next bill. A bill, an amendment to legally recognize same-sex marriage. Matthew Cohen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today to propose an amendment to the Constitution for same-sex marriage. Because the truth of the matter is, right now, the way we have banned same-sex marriage, we are inadvertently preventing gay couples from being happy and having the pursuit of happiness. And that's the first point. The second point is that gay couple in Massachusetts, they're not affecting you in any way, shape, or form. So the question is, why should you impose your religious beliefs upon them? We have the First Amendment in the United States, the freedom of religion. And as Thomas Jefferson once said, separation of church and state. And right now, the way we have it in U.S. law, or in state law, I guess, we prevent gay people from getting married simply based off of religious beliefs. This is inexcusable. Secondly, we can look at the consequences of having gay marriage happen. So the first one is that the divorce rate decreases. We can look at the divorce rate in Massachusetts since gay marriage was passed. It dropped from 22% to 8%. And you want to know why? Because gay people are no longer pressured to marry a woman and then get divorced because they realize they're gay. And they feel pressured by society just by having that ban on same-sex marriage. And so you don't have those families destroyed because gay people are pressured into marrying a woman. The third point is that there's the claim on the other side that religious institutions will somehow close down because the government will force religious institutions to marry gay people. This simply ain't true. We can look at the facts on this matter. There is no instance in the United States of America where a religious institution was forced to close down because they refused to marry a gay couple. And the final point is, has anybody here read The Sneetches on the Beaches by Dr. Seuss? Okay, well, it looks like we need to improve our AP literature classes. And so in this book, you have some Sneetches on the beaches, and some have stars on their bellies, and some do not. And it's analogous to gay marriage because opponents of this amendment claim, oh, why don't we just have civil unions? Well, you're creating a second-class citizen when you have civil unions. Because it's not the same thing as a marriage. No matter what you say, by saying that you cannot get married and you can only be in a civil union, you are discriminating against gay people, and that is inexcusable because in America, we do not impose our religion on other people. Thank you.
We'll now have a 2-minute opponency speech. Kevin Group.
Well, I don't know, I'm going to get taxes bill, so...
The chair will now recognize Kevin Goo for a 2-minute speech.
So, the argument here is it's pretty simple, and it's nothing to do with the religious institutions that the proponency is bringing up. And the argument that I'm going to tell you today is that it's not in the federal government's jurisdiction to include legislation such as this amendment in the Constitution. Now, this is a state's right. It is the right of a state to decide whether or not gay marriage will be legal within that state, just like the multiple states that have already decided to legalize gay marriage. Remember what organizers say during marriages. They say, by the power instilled in me by the state of California, I hereby declare blah 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 man and wife or married. But we realize that this organizer does not say, by the power instilled in me by the federal government, or the power instilled in me by the Constitution. No, by the power instilled in me by the states. And so we realize that this is a state issue that has to be decided by states, not by the federal government. Thank you.
The chair. All right. Do we have a 3-minute speech in the proponency? Yeah, notes in the back. recognize Sam Jones for a 2-minute speech.
Hello, I'm Sam Jones from Several High School. I'm the staunchest affirmation that we should allow gay marriage. And first of all, I'm going to talk about how this is making them relinquish the pursuit of happiness if we don't keep them from being able to marry the person they love. These people have the right to be able to marry the person they love. And when we talk about how they can have a civil union said, it does not have the same meaning whatsoever. There's a difference between saying I'm in a civil union with someone and saying I'm married to someone. Maybe if they have the same rights in terms of how you're paying taxes, maybe, but to have the same feeling and happiness that comes out of saying I am married is much different and is a much better right to have than happiness. And really, anybody that says that they can't have it, they really need to mind their own business. What I say is, you really can't judge people because the only person that can judge is him above. And so you really shouldn't be able to say. You really shouldn't be able to say whether or not someone can love someone else. I have a lesbian sister, and people judge her saying that she can't raise kids. Her and her wife have raised 2 beautiful children, and they are some of the best parents I've ever seen. And for them to attack my sister and say that she cannot raise kids, even when they're the best behaved kids, I find that utterly disgusting and that you have no right to say what they believe. I relinquish my time to question.
Since there's less than 30 seconds, we observe the remaining time. Thank you. All right. Do we have a 3-minute opponency speech? Yes. The chair recognizes Martin for 2 minutes. And Sam Jones, please pick up your name tag.
I'm not going to come up here and say whether gay marriage is right or wrong, because that's not why I'm against this. What I'm against is a constitutional amendment for gay marriage. Let's play a game called How Well You Know Your Constitution. Okay? Nowhere in the Constitution is the word marriage ever used, but yet it's legal in all 50 states. So, even if we have gay marriage, even if gay marriage isn't in the Constitution, it doesn't mean that one day it will be accepted everywhere. Now, if you look into separation of church and state, that phrase is nowhere in the Constitution. What it says is that the government cannot put one religion over another. Now, I'll go away from the Constitution a little bit, and I'll explain this history. If you look into the 1800s and the Civil War, when the North tried to force the South to cause abolition, there was a war. The war was fought. It was very bloody, and in the end, the South lost dearly, and were forced to free their slaves. From that, what happened was an increase in anger, increased bigotry in the South, causing these people to become angry and to actually attack these people, which prolonged the real fight for civil rights. Now, if you look into today, gay marriage, as you can see, there are 4 states now that have accepted it. It's slowly evolutionizing into becoming more accepted. Now, if we put this into the Constitution and force this into all 50 states, I know here in California, we're very comfortable with it. We understand it. There are people who really do not understand this. And if they feel the government is forcing this on them, they will become aggressive, whether irrational or rational. And I think the best way to help gay people is not by forcing them onto it, but by setting a higher standard. By state, people will learn to accept them. I'll leave on.
Yes, your name tag. Thank you. Are there any motions on the floor? Motion for a second. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Nay. All right, the chair will now recognize Matthew Cohen for a 2-minute closing speech.
In response response to what Kevin Goose said, I'd like to reference history. You know what else was once considered a state's right? Slavery. Look, the point of the matter is equality should not be determined by the states. It should be enshrined in our Constitution like a lot of other amendments are. The second point of the matter is we keep on talking about the constitutionality or not. Well, the point of the Constitution is that it's a living and breathing document, and we have the right to amend it to fit the society that we are living in today. And the society we are living in today has 10% of the population that is homosexual. The second point is somehow there's a notion out there that gay people don't know how to raise parents. Well, I've got news for you people. Well, I'm actually the son of two dads. And none of you saw, a lot of you didn't see that coming. And you know why you didn't see that coming? Because it doesn't make a difference if you have two dads, one dad, one mom, or we have been on a journey for over 200 years to ensure that everyone has equal opportunity. And if we are truly on this journey, and to complete this journey, we must have our gay brothers and sisters treated like anyone else under the law. For if we are truly created equal, then the love we commit to one another must be equal as well. Thank you for
All right, we will now vote on the amendment. All those in favor, please rise. Please be seated. All those opposed? Please be seated. All those abstain? All right, with the vote of 194 to 8 to 31, this amendment passes. All right, we will now move on to our next bill, which is a bill to allow homosexual blood donations. So, Remy. For a 3-minute opening statement. Folks.
Okay, I'm Remy Schumann from Corona Del Mar.
Yeah.
Every 2 seconds, there is someone who is in need of blood. In 1977, a law was enacted that banned any man who had had sexual relations with another man from giving blood. That was almost 40 years ago, and that law is still in the books today. It was created at a time when HIV was a new, unknown phenomenon that had barely been studied. It was believed by scientists and the public alike that HIV could only be transmitted amongst the homosexual population. There was even a different name for AIDS, GRID, gay-related immune deficiency. 40 years ago, we had no scientific basis for these discussions, and today, for these assumptions, and today we all obviously know that anyone can contract HIV regardless of their sexual orientation. Currently, the amount of blood donations is at its lowest point in 15 years. The health of many is being put at risk because of an outdated and discriminatory law that was enacted based on a misconception. In this day and age, the majority of people with HIV know they have it, and if they do end up giving blood, there are plenty of screenings done on the donations. Before any donated blood reaches a patient, it is screened multiple times for diseases, HIV included. The actual chance of a patient receiving HIV-infected blood is 1 in 2 million. With that chance being so small, what is the problem with allowing homosexuals to donate blood? Yes, in 1977, HIV was significantly more present in the gay population, but today, other groups are becoming an increasingly more percentage of the HIV pool. We wouldn't discriminate against a whole racial group just because they're more likely to have HIV, so why should we do so against a certain sexual orientation? Allowing the homosexual community to donate blood benefits the entire population and serves to bring equality to this wrongfully discriminated against group. The law takes sexual orientation into account as a factor of determining if it is too risky for one to donate blood, but fails to evaluate the many other risky behaviors that can lead to an increased chance of contracting HIV. A gay man who is having safe sex with just one partner would be automatically turned away from donating blood, while a straight man who has unprotected sex with a different woman each night of the week can donate blood without question. Who do you think is living the more risque lifestyle here? Who would you rather receive blood from? Lifestyle has so much more of an effect on one's risk for contracting HIV than one's sexual orientation does. When this law was enacted in 1977, several other countries passed similar laws. Everyone believed HIV could only be contracted if you were homosexual, and there was no research to prove otherwise. That was 40 years ago. It's 2013. We are so far beyond that at this point. Countries such as England, Australia, and Japan have already lifted their bans, while we are trailing behind. This law is completely discriminatory, outdated, and impractical. Shouldn't gays be afforded the same rights as everyone else? We now know that HIV can be contracted regardless of sexual orientation. It is a deadly and horrible disease, but does not discriminate. So why should we? Thank you. I yield my time to the chair.
All right, do we have a 2-minute speech for the op? Let's see. No one wants to play devil's advocate in the name of some discussion? Okay, yes, okay, excellent.
Do it. Yeah. Okay. I like to start off saying I do not hate gay people because I've come up here twice. But why I'm up here again, and sort of, for testing for AIDS, it takes 6 months until you can test the bloodstream whether it's there. AIDS testing is still rather inefficient. And now, whether gay people still have a very high risk for AIDS. Now, this isn't about equal rights right now, what I'm trying to talk about. I don't care who I'm talking about, so I'll talk about the people A. No. People A have a higher risk of AIDS. And AIDS is a disease that's still really hard to track in blood. AIDS testing is around 70% accurate. And now, why would we want to increase for this blood that's supposed to save people, to increase blood in the blood banks that is still very hard to test for AIDS in a people that have a higher risk? This isn't about race or any other social issue. This is just about safety and health in general. Now, I hope that you can look past the idea of doing this just to help gay people, but look at it actually by what I'm saying. If you really want to help them, look at them just as regular people. They are people who coincidentally have a higher risk. There are different people all the time who have higher risk for certain things. Jews have I don't know the name of it, but like Tay-Sachs disease that they're a higher risk for. Different people for different reasons have this. Now I just tell you to look at just the numbers and not the people. Thank you.
Seeing as there's less than 30 seconds, there's no time for questions. Do we have a subsequent speaker for the proponency? favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. We will now move to previous question. We will now recognize Shirley for a 2-minute clothing statement.
Okay, the fact that this law is still in the books today is completely ridiculous. The only reason that they passed this bill in 1977 is because it was a misconception. It's based on a misconception. They thought that you could only get AIDS if you were gay. We know today that that's completely false, and there's no reason that this should be still in our law today. Yes, it is more likely in gay population to have HIV, but the tests are so accurate. It is a 1 in 2 million chance that any HIV-infected blood will actually reach a patient. And Martin said that it was about safety and health, but right now there is such a big blood shortage, the lowest amount of donations in 15 years. So that's another health issue also. So they kind of, passing this bill goes to help health issue, not against it. And overall, this is just a gay rights bill. Like, it's discriminatory against gay men that they cannot donate blood right now. And I think a lot of you are in support of gay rights, and I think that you should pass this bill. It has an added health effect. It would increase our blood supply. So thank you. I yield my time to the chair.
Great, thank you. We will now vote on this bill. All of those in favor of a bill to allow homosexual blood donation?
I'm abstaining because
Seriously, bro.
All right, with a vote of 148 to 8 to 26, this bill passes. All right, and I'd just like to commend you guys all. You've been a really, really well-behaved house, but let's just keep it together. We have about half an hour left before we go to lunch. Shouldn't this intrigue you? This is exciting. Passing legislation. So just hold it together and minimize the side conversation, and we will have a wonderful half an hour. All right, so next bill. A bill to limit access to private Facebook information. Kevin Gu. Ladies and gentlemen. The chair recognizes Kevin Gu for 3 minutes.
Okay, so in essence, this is basically a bill that would prevent employers or schools from viewing your Facebook profiles or using it as a method of evaluation. So a bill of this kind is required. We see that when seniors apply to college, a lot of them change their name on FB so that they can prevent admissions officers or admissions counselors from viewing their profiles. So obviously, we see that there is a need to protect these kinds of people. Now, current Facebook privacy options are too generic. They're too generalized to provide specialized protection for these kinds of people. So you can prevent your name from being searched on Facebook. You can prevent people from being able to access your profile through the use of an email. But what this means is that no one can find you. If you don't have a mutual friend with this person, if it's someone that you've met that you do want a friend, they can't find you on Facebook. So it's not just preventing an admissions officer from finding you, it's preventing everybody else from finding you too. And you can, block your information or block pictures from being searched or viewed on your profile. But again, you may be blocking people you actually know and blocking people you want to be able to view this information. So basically, current privacy options are flawed because they're too generalized and they prevent too much. Now, here I'm going to address a few concerns. One of the concerns might be, why only Facebook? Why not other social networking sites like Tumblr or Twitter or MySpace? Well, Facebook is the most prominent social network. And if we do pass this bill on Facebook, we'll see that the other social networks will gradually begin to follow suit. So basically, this is a huge step in the right direction. And if we get this bill to pass, we can get these kinds of bills to pass for other social networks too. And there's also the argument that people should only post things that they will accept responsibility for. But there are a lot of things that I might want to share with a certain kind of group that I wouldn't want to share with others. Maybe an inside joke that only my friends get, or something that might be politically incorrect or slightly inappropriate. These might be things that I would want to share with my friends or people that I can see on a daily basis, but not necessarily with the admissions counselor at Columbia. So at the end, the question that we have to realize, the question that we have to answer here today is, should I have to be prim and proper all days of the week in order to be accepted into a school or accepted for employment? If you believe the answer to that question is no, you should vote yes on this bill. Let's keep the private things private. Thank you.
All right, we'll now have a 2-minute subsequent speech for the opponency. Yes, Nima. The chair recognizes Nima Karori for 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Nima Karori, or otherwise on Facebook I'm known as Nima Daniel or Nima Toad. But besides that, I think that this bill is very, let's say, unnecessary. I think that this is a prime example of survival of the fittest. If you're stupid enough to post something on Facebook for people to see, I think that you shouldn't get that job or you shouldn't get into that school. I think that this is necessary information for your employer to know. Why should an employer suffer in the future based on some actions that you made before that you could have hid? So because I think this is unnecessary, I think Facebook has gone too far. This whole debate about Facebook, this is a social network site. People are posting at their own discretion. Facebook has made it clear that what you post can be seen to other people if your privacy policy isn't intact. And you can even change your setting on Facebook to make it so no one can see. Like, I know everyone here has tried to creep on Facebook, on someone's profile, try to click on the profile picture, doesn't open, and you just leave. That's it. Okay, so I think this is unnecessary. I think this is just a way to, regulate the job market somehow. That's it. I yield my time to questions.
There are things on Facebook that are relating to an individual that are not posted by that individual. I know myself, I posted 2 photos of myself on Facebook ever, but there are hundreds of myself taken from other people and posted on them. What do you say about my rights regarding being judged on things that other people post?
Untag yourself.
Seeing as there's less than 30 seconds left, the chair absorbs the remaining time. Thank you. All right, the chair will recognize a 2-minute speech for the proponency. Yes, notes. Yes. Chair will now recognize Elizabeth Mulroy for 2 minutes.
Hi everybody, my name is Elizabeth Mulroy. I go to OSHA. I've never spoken before, so I'm kind of nervous, but here goes. All right, so there's just a few points I want to address. A lot of people are saying that if somebody's getting wasted, if they're doing drugs, and there's pictures of that on Facebook, that colleges should have the right to know about the activities of that student, and that they wouldn't want to have that student at their school. I think if there was an offense serious enough, like a suspension due to drug abuse or alcohol abuse, then that college would be notified by the high school. And if they weren't caught, then and that student will continue to be doing those bad activities at that college, then hopefully they can get caught there. But I think that everybody deserves a chance to have a fresh start, and if that person wanted to kind of turn over a new leaf and maybe leave behind those life choices, they have the right to do that. Also, the opponency subsequent speaker mentioned that if you're stupid enough to post it, then that's your fault. It's not always your choice. Sometimes you might get tagged in a photo where you're holding a red Solo cup filled with apple juice, and you happen to blink, and somebody will see that and be like, oh my god, she's wasted. It's not always your choice, and colleges can interpret those pictures and posts badly if they don't understand what's going on in that situation. So I do not believe that colleges should use Facebook as a means to do a backup check on you.
All right, the speaker yields her time to the chair. We have an amendment. It is to extend privacy to all social networking sites instead of just Facebook.
The amendment failed in the Senate committee.
Yeah, it failed. To extend privacy to all social networking sites instead of just Facebook. So we are now going to vote on this amendment. If you are in favor of amending the bill, please rise. Please be seated. All of those opposed to the amendment, please rise. Please be seated. All those abstain. Wait, Nico. Okay, we'll slow down. Yeah, no, Plan B is the last one. Okay, yeah. 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 All right, with a vote of 148 to 5 to 37, the amendment passes. Okay. All right, but the problem is this bill has already failed in the Senate. So there's really no point in honoring the amendment, but we can for our purposes. Excuse me? Oh my gosh. All right. All right, we need a 2-minute statement for the opponents. Oh no, do you have a question?
Wouldn't the Senate possibly have a different view if it's a pretty major change changing the word Facebook to social networks.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll run it over and see what happens.
Motion to previous question.
2-minute speech to the opponency. Someone who has not spoken yet. Have you spoken? Okay, yes. The chair will recognize Chris for a 2-minute opponency speech.
Oh yeah. Come on, Chris.
Hi, my name is Chris Buchanan. I'm a student at Newport Harbor High School. And the issue I have with this bill is the things you post on a social media site, it is you. That's who you are. The picture of you on Facebook holding a beer or smoking weed or whatever you're doing, that is still you, and that's the full picture of who you are. To represent to a college that you're this high upstanding person, but you go out and commit crime, underage drinking, the smoking marijuana, it's illegal. Whether we want to lower the drinking age or legalize marijuana, different issue. Right now, it's illegal. So posting a picture of yourself, doing an illegal thing, that's who you are. And to say, oh, that's not me anymore, like, how can a college evaluate that? They have to get a picture of a person from a resume, a piece of paper, to paint a picture of a person to decide to accept them or not. And a social media site is a way for them to see the full picture of who you are and to evaluate who you are as a person in a short period of time. Sure, if they got to know you and sat down and knew your whole life, they'd probably know you're a pretty good guy, for all I know you are. But if I was in a one-to-one competition with another student to get accepted to a college, good college, and I followed the rules my entire life, did everything right, and they didn't, and they got accepted because this was dismissed because, oh, I'm not that person anymore, I would be so let down. Like, wow, I see. Doing all these things that are illegal doesn't matter. Who cares? So all I'm saying is these social media sites, what you post, that's who you are. And if you can't stand by who you are, then why should you stand for anything? Thank you.
I'm assuming you're yielding your time to the chair. Okay. All right. Do we have any motions on the floor? All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Nay. All right, the ayes have it. We will now move to previous question. We can wait.
Okay, so what we've heard today from the opponency is that they should be able to see every aspect of your life. That schools or employers should be able to look at your Facebook profile and judge who you are based on what they see there. But I can be a model employee or student. Why should what I do in my free time matter? I can get straight A's, but if there's one picture of me, perhaps taking a drink when I shouldn't, I can get rejected. It's just not fair. Now Nima has told us about survival of the fittest, that it's unnecessary and this legislation shouldn't be passed. But what I find ironic is that on Facebook, his name is Nima Toad, or Nima Daniel. And a few weeks ago, I wanted to friend you on Facebook. And I went to look for Nima Karori, and I didn't find anyone. I was bummed for a week. I was completely bummed. So I was disappointed, and I knew that a lot of other people were too. You're such a popular guy, Nima. Why can't I friend you on Facebook? And so wouldn't it be convenient if you didn't have to change your name when you applied to colleges? And wouldn't it be nice if you could be who you wanted to be in your free time? If you think yes, vote yes. Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna pause for a few seconds. We just want to see what happened at the Senate. So, yes, sir. No, it's a closing statement. Motion to death. No, proponency. Right. What's the motion? Motion to dance. All right, the motion is to suspend the rules and allow Nima to speak, to give an opponency closing statement. Second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? We are going to suspend the vote until they have their business sorted out. We're just going to move on to the next bill. No, we're going to vote later. We just want to see what happens with the Senate, so whether or not the amendment passed or what changed, and then we'll vote on it later. Okay. All right. Next is a bill to abolish age limit for purchasing Plan B contraception. All right, the chair will now recognize Simran for 3 minutes. There's a pattern here, folks.
Hi everybody, my name is Simran. I go to Valencia High School. And before I really jump into kind of the meat of this bill, I just want to start out by kind of outlining its framework. So yes, this bill does kind of skirt the issue of abortion, but what I really want to emphasize here is that it only skirts the issue of abortion. Essentially, this bill deals with contraception, and for all of those of you out there that are pro-life, contraception lessens the amount of abortion needed. So I really would like you to think about that when you ponder this bill, because that really is essential. And this whole kind of idea really makes this bill a crucial issue for our generation. So basically, what we're talking about here is the morning after pill. A pill you take the morning after, and it's, not exactly the morning after, but you can take it for up to 3 days, and after that, its effectiveness kind of goes down. And it has very little side effects. Worst case scenario, you end up with a headache. And I don't know about you guys, but I would definitely take a migraine over maternity. Really? I have 1 minute left? Okay. Oh, okay. So the key fact here is that it's a backup. It's not your primary source of contraception. You use it in the case of something going wrong. So, if you are using it as your primary contraception, you're doing it wrong. So currently in California, you have to be 18 years or older to buy it over the counter. And there's no age limit on if you have a prescription. But what this does is it makes it very not functional, because people who can get a prescription for it are the same people who are most likely to have a prescription for it are the very same people that can buy it over the counter. And teenagers like us, who are the least likely to have a prescription for it, are the most likely to have unplanned sexual encounters, are also the very same people that cannot buy this drug over the counter. And that's not very functional. This is going to increase abortion, increase unplanned pregnancies, increase teenage pregnancies. So you might say that, hey, you know, you have like an unplanned sexual encounter, you need a morning after pill, go and get a prescription. But, you know, let's be real. In America, since when can you get a doctor's appointment without waiting for hours in the doctor's office and waiting weeks for an appointment? That's just not going to happen here. And the nature of this pill, the morning after, you need it the morning after. So getting a prescription, you know, on demand is not really a viable option here. And if we do pass this bill, the results here, you have less unplanned pregnancies, I already said, less abortion, more happy families. And I really hate to pull this card, but you know, in the case that you get raped, that's the most unplanned a sexual encounter can get, and you really, really need this pill in those sorts of cases. And before I wrap up, I'd just like to address the issue of when people say that, oh, you're 17 years and younger, you need this pill, your parents should know what you're doing. But I mean, come on, be serious. I mean, we just talked about how we don't want older people that, okay, all right, I'll wrap up. I'll finish my conclusion. Thank you. Alright, we will now recognize a 2-minute subsequent speech in the opera. Let's see. Yes. Oh no, Chris, you're The chair will now recognize Chris Fleming for 2 minutes.
By all means, contraception is a very important thing. I believe that every American, whether they be teenager or adult or old person, should have some type of access to a contraceptive. However, I tend to have a problem when we start discussing Plan Bs. Because to me, one should always be smart about their sexual encounters. You ever heard that term, like that phrase, should always carry a condom in your pocket or your wallet? Always carry one around. Should always. My point is, Plan B should be, like Plan B contraceptives should be unnecessary. Plan B contraceptives, I don't think that lowering the age will make much of a difference and one should always be smart in their encounters in the first place. I feel that lowering the age limit for Plan B contraceptives should be reserved for those who are able to actually have such an accident like this. Not that it makes a lot of sense. I give my time to questions. Nima. Yes, about the people that were raped. I feel that that should be amended as a special circumstance.
Thank you. All right, the chair absorbs the remaining time. Thank you. Do we have a 2-minute subsequent speech for the program? So notes. I know notes. Come on. Okay, fantastic. All right, go ahead.
The previous speaker brought up a point that people should always have condoms before they plan on having sex. And I think the point of the Plan B is that it's a backup, and that sometimes condoms break, and sometimes you don't have access to a condom, like, for example, when rape occurs. And so I think that Plan B is necessary for all people, even people under the age of 17, who are going to have these encounters and these accidents that happen. And they're going to have emergencies where they're going to need to get Plan B contraceptives, and they're going to need to get them quickly. And so that's why I think this bill is legit.
Thank you. Do we have an opponency speaker? All right, do we have a motion to suspend the rules and move to closing statements? Oh, yes. And then also, folks, what we're going to do is after we finish this debate, we're not going to vote on the last two because they've already failed in the Senate. So there's really no point in doing that unless you guys want to cut into your lunchtime. That's what we figured. So, and also, yes, so, and then can someone tell me what time you guys need to be back for lunch? No, to back. Like, what time do you have to be back?
12:20.
Okay, fantastic.
Now, I recognize Plan B as a type of abortion. Now, you may disagree, but just as abortion minimum ages differ from state to state, so should the minimum age for Plan B differ from state to state. Because it is not the role of the federal government to determine when you should be allowed to take Plan B contraceptives. Just as the minimum age for getting an abortion is lower in California than it is in Texas, so that states should have the same right to determine what the minimum age for a Plan B contraceptive is. Now, I support states' rights. I believe in that Jeffersonian value that states and the individual have the most power in this government, and we should not sacrifice our rights to the federal government. For if you so desire to get Plan B contraceptives, you will lobby in your own state, but you don't need to enforce and just impose your views on all other states, because states' rights outweigh federal power greatly.
All right, thank you. All right, do we have a motion on the floor? Do I get a second? All those in favor? All opposed? All right, we'll now move to a 2-minute closing statement.
Hi, okay, so since this bill already failed in the Senate, that makes me kind of sad, but I'd just like to make a point before I leave you guys, and that's just, the two speakers that spoke in support of this bill were both girls, right? And the people that spoke in opposition of this bill were guys, right? Now, tell me, guys, who takes this drug? And who should have the last word on this drug? That's what's yelled. Okay. Additionally, this bill is affecting teenagers. This bill is affecting teenagers. We need to have the last word on this. Girls need to have the last word on this. So if we were voting, I would encourage you to vote like a girl, as a girl would vote, and for feminist rights. So that's pretty much it. I'd like to sum it up. Thank you so much.
All right, do you have any other motions on the floor? It's motion to adjourn. Can I get a second? now we're going to debate a resolution to add picketing at funerals to the legal definition of harassment. So can we get the bill sponsor, please? Okay, excellent. All right. The chair will now recognize Jimmy for, what? Jimmy Madigan for 3 minutes.
This bill is a resolution to add the picketing of funerals to the legal definition of harassment. The endorsement of freedom of speech consequently allows for the protesting of funerals in this country. It should be the legal right of every single family in the U.S. to be able to mourn the loss of loved ones without the torment or menace of protesters. Harassment is governed by state laws, which may vary by state, but is generally defined as a course of conduct which annoys, threatens, intimidates, alarms, or puts a person in fear of their safety. Unwanted, unwelcome behavior and uninvited behavior that demeans, threatens, or offends the victim and results in a hostile environment, which also includes, but is not limited to, derogatory comments, slurs, or lewd propositions, such as visual insults and derogatory posters or cartoons. Does this not already seem a perfect fit for what the definition of funeral picketing is? Within close proximity, picketers chant derogatory comments and slurs. They have signs with visual insults and derogatory posters. These actions are unwanted, unwelcomed, and serve as uninvited behavior that demeans and offends the victims, and in some cases, promotes a hostile environment. This issue and the court have clashed before. On March 2nd, 2011, the Supreme Court ruled that the First Amendment protects a fringe church's anti-war protests at a military funeral in the case of Snyder versus Phelps. Chief Justice John Roberts chose to say it is entitled to special protection under the First Amendment, and that protection cannot be overcome by the jury, finding the picketing was outrageous. With picketing as a legal definition of harassment, it will be possible to overcome the First Amendment in court. Some measures have been made against picketing, however, for funerals. The Sanctity of Eternal Rest for Veterans Act of 2011, or the SERV Act, prohibits the picketing of military funerals within 500 feet of the funeral or any of the deceased's immediate family an hour before until an hour after the funeral. It also prohibits funeral picketing on national cemeteries such as Arlington National Cemetery. The goal of this bill is to protect those attending funerals for loved ones, and is to expand this idea to any and all funeral protests, because the cruelty is not just limited to anti-war. Organizations such as Westboro Baptist Church have a motto that says, "God does everything for a reason." Some of their motives, based off of this motto, serve as the basis of some of their protests. Not only is it anti-war, but one instance, which I believe is the worst, is that recently the Westboro Baptist Church decided to protest the funerals of those children killed in the Sandy Hook Elementary shooting. These acts may not and will not be unpunished, and it must end now. Thank you.
The chair absorbs the remaining time. Can we get a subsequent speaker for the obstinacy? No one? Yes. The chair recognizes Ben for 2 minutes.
Thank you. While it is true that there are actions undertaken by several individuals, such as those in the Westboro Baptist Church, that are very heinous and mean and completely disrespectful to those at said funerals, I do not believe that this bill should be passed. There's a phrase that goes, "I do not like what you have to say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." What happens if, for example, someone that we agree with gets banned from picketing at a funeral? Say, a man such as Dorner goes on a rampaging spree, and people want to hold a memorial service that holds him up as a hero. people would want to picket that, and I would like to respect their ability to do so. Such individuals, such as those in the Westboro Baptist Church, have the same ideas about the rest of us. And while we can generally agree that they are wrong and hateful, it is still protected by the First Amendment, and I think that as a country, we should be proud of the ability of these people to do so. I cede the remaining time to questions. Yes?
The government already has limited people's First Amendment rights with the Alien Sedition Act and Espionage Instigation Acts. So why does it make a difference now?
Because I don't like those laws either. And I don't think that they should have ever been enacted in the first place.
No, in interest of time. We're just gonna let it close, so everyone be quiet. Folks, I understand that lunch was shorter this time, but I said 3 times 12:20, and we even started at 12:30, so we even started 10 minutes late. And I just want to really emphasize that tardiness is a huge deal, especially when we have such a short amount of time to get through so much debate and discussion, and that every second really is precious, and that being late is so disrespectful to not only the speakers, but everybody in this room. So please do not ever be late again. All right, with that, we'll move on to our next subsequent speech for the proponency, 2 minutes. There's a motion on the floor? All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. We will now move to previous question, and we will recognize you for a 2-minute closing statement.
So the bottom line is that protests or picketing funerals should be viewed as legal harassment and should be punishable by court. No protest should be allowed within 300 feet of a funeral, 1 hour before or after, or within any of the deceased immediate family's residence. Remember, we're not trying to tell them that they cannot protest. They are only going to be removed from proximity of the funeral because it is direct personal harassment that can have extreme traumatizing effects on all those who witness it. Like you brought up, a protest against appraisal of Chris Dorner would not be considered harassment because the people would only be picketing it because they're against it. And it's not as personal as or direct as someone who's protesting the death of a loved one. And I usually see it as protests that usually have a reason, such as, say, workers are mad about the wages that they're being paid, and they're picketing that. That's not taken personally by the company or the boss. They're just trying to, I guess, get a message across. These Westboro Baptist Church protesters, I do not see any solid message. So maybe it's easier for me to realize because I have family in the armed forces, but if you were at a funeral and a loved one had died in Afghanistan or in a shooting, you would not look at protesters with signs that say, "Thank God for dead soldiers," or "God sent the shooter," with you wouldn't look at those lightly. You would react mostly with grief, fear, anger, and hatred, and sometimes this even can promote hostility. These effects can be traumatizing and last a lifetime. Thank you for letting me speak, and please vote yes on this bill.
All right. We will now vote on this bill. It is a resolution, or it's a resolution to add picketing at funerals to the legal definition of harassment. All those in favor, please rise. opposed, please rise. All those abstain? With a vote of 129 to 10 to 13, this bill passes. All right, we're now going to move on to our next bill, a bill to legalize marijuana. All right, who's the main speaker for this?
I'll get on that.
Does anybody have an agenda here?
Where's Tom Yeager? We can move on to the next Here, I'll take it. Can you get Tom Yeager?
Okay, yeah.
Because he's a senator.
Okay, I'll find it.
Yeah, just check next door, he's not next to
I'll
Osa, it's never acceptable to be late. All right. Okay, we are going to start now. A bill to legalize marijuana. You can come on up. All right, we will now recognize Osa for 3 minutes.
You know what's so great about this country? The fact that we have the right to exercise our freedoms. But do you know what's not so great right now? Our policy concerning marijuana. The government tells all Americans, including all of us in this room, that we cannot use marijuana. And where's the freedom in that? There is no freedom. The people should have the right to educate themselves about marijuana, and they choose whether or not they wish to use it. There are drugs in this country right now that are far worse than marijuana will ever be. Alcohol and cigarettes kill thousands of people every year, if they're perfectly legal, and people have the right to choose whether or not they want to use them. Yet we can't make a choice to decide whether or not we want to use marijuana, which has been proven to be much safer than both alcohol and cigarettes. Marijuana also has health benefits. It can help cancer and glaucoma patients with their nausea. And as for recreational use, well, it's simply a way to calm down and relax. And is that really so bad? So bad that we have to throw people in prison with real criminals. I don't want to have to bunk with the nutcracker for smoking the joint. That's just not right. So, I propose that we get rid of this ridiculous prohibition. There is no reason to criminalize marijuana. It can even help our nation by providing revenue. Revenue in the form of taxes, because we are in debt and we need money now. And it can also take away revenue from drug dealers that are profiting off of marijuana this very second. And there are also some misconceptions I need to clear up right now. Marijuana is not physically addictive. There is no chemical in marijuana that will get you hooked. That is all a myth. Second misconception, that it will turn this nation into a nation of losers. This nation will never be a loser. You can still be a perfectly responsible and productive member of society and use marijuana, just as we do with alcohol today. And the third one, marijuana does not kill brain or lung cells. That is smoke, not marijuana. You don't have to smoke marijuana. There are other ways to consume it. So that is blown right out of the water. I'd like to now give my time for questions. Now see, that's all mental. Physically addictive means that if you take it, your body craves it. But some people they like the effect that it has on them, not necessarily their body, but them, their mind, you know? They like how they feel. So there's a difference.
All right, please, Chair absorbs the remaining time. Thank you. All right, would anyone like to make a 2-minute subsequent speech for the opponency? All right, thank you, Joel. All right, the chair recognizes Joel for 2 minutes.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna start this off by saying I'm a member of the Green Party. I love weed. I like to go out and toke up as much as the next person. But I do not support this bill. Why? Because making marijuana legal would mean that big companies could start producing marijuana. They could gain political clout. They could drive out of business the small farmers, the little guys growing their own strains of weed in their backyard. They would drive those people out of business. My friend's friend, I want him to keep doing what he's doing. This would drive them out of business, and these big companies, marijuana now isn't physically addictive, but if these major companies got their hands on them, the marijuana corps,
They put all kinds of chemicals in them, genetically modify marijuana, make it so that you can go out and have a simple smoke without being scared of what's inside that joint. I am against this bill because I support homegrown weed, and this bill would destroy that for all of us. Thank you. I yield my time for questions.
Questions to the speaker. Serious questions. Yes.
If marijuana to be legalized, do you believe that further education and standards in marijuana production would come into effect?
I am against this bill because this bill doesn't include that. If you want to write another bill, make another amendment, we'll talk.
All right. Would anyone like to make a 2-minute row subsequent? Someone who has not spoken yet today and would like to further their participation. Someone in the back? Oh, no?
John.
All right, notes. John. The chair recognizes John for 2 minutes. Hold on.
Hi, I'm John. I go to Santiago, and I support the legalization of marijuana. Everyone has been talking about how it might not be physically addictive, which I believe is true, but I would like to bring up the medical benefits of marijuana. And I know them firsthand. Last year, I was diagnosed with a disease called ulcerative colitis. It's a chronic disease in the colon, which means it can't be cured. It can be treated through certain medications that take very long times to work, sometimes up to 3 months, and it's not guaranteed that they'll always work. Marijuana can provide instant relief to someone with ulcerative colitis like myself. The symptoms of ulcerative colitis are intense pain, diarrhea, vomiting, loss of appetite, and this can go on for weeks at a time. So the idea that some government official is going to tell me that the one thing that can make me feel better for a little bit in my life is wrong, it should be illegal, is outrageous to me. I yield my time to questions.
Does the speaker recognize that even though marijuana doesn't have a physical dependence, there is an emotional dependence?
I do not know of any studies that do show it has an emotional dependence, so I will not comment on that.
Isn't medical marijuana already illegal for your case? Already legal.
Yes, but I believe it should be legal for everyone, and not just medically. I just wanted to bring up that it does have medical value, and it shouldn't be just for people who have such a severe condition like myself.
There's a motion on the floor. Can I get a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? By how much? 1 minute.
Chocolate cake. That is all. I take 4 to 8 Imodium pills a day, which sometimes helps stop diarrhea, but I've been running out of this room like every 20 minutes. So yeah, it's not as effective as marijuana might be.
The chair reserves the remaining time. All right, can we get a 2-minute subsequent speech at the opponency? Oh. Yes. Yay!
I don't have that much to say. I just thought it was like I mean, there's a bunch of different studies about marijuana that'll tell you different things. But the most recent study that I've heard tells you that smoking marijuana does actually kill brain cells, especially in the minds of developing kids. And while it might be only from smoking it, I'm pretty sure most people smoke it and don't consume it. And I think like passing this bill will introduce another danger to kids and adults. And while it's their freedom, like I just think that should be considered. Yep. I use my time.
Okay. The chair observes the remaining time. Thank you. All right. Are there? We actually do have time. Okay, all right, so we'll do another round of subsequents. Do we have any speakers for the proponency? Notes? Notes, yeah. Yep.
So much opposition.
Let's find out. Hold on. Adriana.
All right, the chair recognizes Adriana for 2 minutes.
Okay, just like the last speaker, I'm going to address some things just shortly. Okay, so she basically stated that marijuana would affect the brains of developing children if they were to smoke it. But the thing about this bill is that it's only intended for people over the age of 21. So obviously, they would not be the ones that were smoking it, they would not be affected. By the time you were 21, you were done developing, it would not affect your brain. Once again, like one of my allies said, this would only happen, any brain effects would not happen if you were, it would only happen if you were to smoke it. As they said, there are other methods of intaking that. You can take it into a brownie if you want. There's different ways of, as you guys may know, of intaking marijuana. Now, as somebody else said, if we were to legalize it, they said that companies would take advantage of this and add chemicals into it. Now, the bill also states that marijuana may be grown yourself if you get the proper license. Now, obviously, if you grow it yourself, you're not going to want to become addicted to it. I hope you wouldn't. So, obviously, you're not going to grow it yourself. You're not going to add chemicals into it. The thing you are going to do, if you want to smoke it, is you're going to grow it, you're going to intake it for whatever reason you want to. But it's because you want to, and that it should be one of your rights as an American. Thank you.
The chair absorbs the remaining time. Can we get a 2-minute subsequent speech in the opponency? Notes? Notes? Okay, that's fine. Chris, you already spoke today.
Twice. Just like to point out.
Hi everyone, my name is Leanne Pham, and I have major stage fright, and this is my first time talking in front of a big group of people. I believe that marijuana, oh my god, use to release your stress because I can't even think what I wanted to say. Okay. Because some people may abuse this privilege and use it to like have more fun when they're partying because they can't have fun partying without being under the influence. And I just think that smoking marijuana is for cowards because they're not themselves when they're smoking. Their perception has changed and they can't think correctly. And I know all of you want to argue with me and tell me that, sorry, I know time's like pressing, want to argue with me and tell me like, oh, smoking is so much better for partying and it makes you have so much more fun. Well, guess what? If you didn't have that, if you didn't have marijuana, then and you couldn't have fun, then that's just sad. And plus, if it was legal and you were trying to get marijuana, your parents to buy marijuana for you, do you really believe that they will go out and buy it for you? Or are you just voting for this bill to look cool in front of your friends and to look cool because you want to smoke in front of people and not get in trouble? Okay, and one more thing. Okay, I have two more things. Some of you argued that. Reduce time or something? Okay. My heart. Okay. Some of you said that, oh, there are worse drugs out there. And yeah, there are worse drugs out there, and that's why they're illegal. And I have an analogy. Like, yeah, you could stab someone, and there's something worse. You could kill someone, but still stabbing someone is bad. So if you understand my analogy, then props to you. Okay. And my heart is like, oh my god, okay. And I can hear my voice on the air. Okay. And stop laughing, Megan. Okay. If it's not chemically addictive, then what makes people want to keep coming back? I think that before we pass this bill, we need to learn more about what makes people want to use this drug or this whatever leaf you want to use more, because it obviously is addictive. People want to keep using it so that they can be happy and stuff, but it's just an outlet for cowards that can't be happy on their own.
Are there any motions on the floor? Can I get a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, we will now move to a 2-minute closing statement.
Everybody has the right to choose what they want to do as long as it affects them and only them. Anyone else's opinion should not even matter. So why does it? I ask. Is there any valid reason that anybody can give me that anybody else's opinion should matter? I don't think so. Let's end this prohibition, please. It's madness. You have cigarettes and alcohol legal, and you're trying to tell me that marijuana would somehow ruin America? No, it won't. It won't. I promise. Thank you.
We will now vote on the bill. All those in favor of a bill to legalize marijuana, please rise.
So now can you do that half? 38.
Please be seated. All of those opposed?
What? It's gonna pass. Don't even fret. Don't even fret. How many? Plus 11.
Please be seated. All those abstain?
It passes.
It passed in the Senate too. 157 to 12
Unless
to 19.
abstentions count, it passes.
I don't think that's 2/3.
No, it is. Unless abstentions count, it is.
They do count.
Oh,
Wait,
then
let me
it
see.
doesn't pass if
122
abstentions.
plus 36 plus 2. Wait, you can do 2/3. 2/3 times, what's that number? 122. 81. So it's as long as this is less than 81. Right, no, wait, what?
No, no, no.
122
No,
plus
okay.
36 plus 13.
Okay, a third of 122 is
0.66.
40.5.
112. It passes. Okay.
It passes.
Yeah.
All right, with a vote of 122 to 36 to 13, this bill passes. All right, folks, can we please be seated and focus? We have one more bill, and it deserves the same attention that the other 9 got. So it's a bill to repeal the NDAA. Can we have Tom? All right. Thank you all. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
All right, the chair recognizes Tom Yeager for 3 minutes.
Although I do not present for this whole House debate, do not mistake that for a lack of resolve in this amendment, in this bill. I believe in freedom of the individual. I believe in the First Amendment, and I believe in America. Now, for those of you who do not know what the NDAA is, it is a bill signed by President Obama in 2011. And the bill says that any citizen of the United States may be detained indefinitely without trial, without being told what they did, without being told anything about why they're being detained, or what they supposedly did wrong, under suspicion of being a terrorist. Now, that's a loose word. What is terrorism? Is terrorism printing in a newspaper your own ideas about how communism is good? Is terrorism holding ideas of anarchy but never speaking them to anyone but your friends? Is terrorism blowing up a building? People have different opinions on all these. But we cannot leave something as undefined as terrorism as a just cause to have our personal rights infringed upon. Now, so if President Obama declares me a terrorist for speaking about this NDAA, there's nothing anyone can do about it. You can protest, sure, but it's completely legal under this law, even though it breaks our Constitution and its amendments. Now, please, if you want to live in a country where you can be called up at any time for no good reason to serve jail time, if you want to live in a country where you aren't free, if you wanted to live in a country where your right to live is supposedly protected by giving up all of your freedoms, then go ahead. Vote against this bill. But if you would like to live in a world which our forefathers imagined, a world where we are truly free, and a world that I feel proud to live in, then please vote pro on this bill. Thank you.
Okay, the chair absorbs the remaining time. Thank you. All right, do we have a subsequent speaker for the opponency? Yes. All right, the chair recognizes Matthew Cohen for 2 minutes.
Well, I'd first like to point out that I agree wholeheartedly with the sponsor of this bill, that it really is indefensible, the provisions enumerated in this bill. However, I do think that it is important that we keep this bill for one reason. This bill allocates $622 billion to our defense budget out of the $750 billion that we spend annually. So by repealing this bill, we will get rid of $622 billion of our defense budget. And this will cripple the United States defense and our ability to counter terrorism, keep the seaways open so that way we can import oil, and also will cost us jobs because we'll be no longer spending money on those defense contracts that we have with private industries. And so if we want to actually tackle this problem, what we need to do is we need to target specific sections of the NDAA. To make an impetuous and rash decision such as just repealing the entire bill, I think is not justifiable. And with that, I yield my remaining time to questions.
Questions? Yes.
As far as the $622 billion to the defense budget, if we can get rid of this bill, would that money consider be allocated for other parts of the defense bill?
This is the annual bill. Like we renew it every single year, and so I mean, it just would disappear, the money. I mean, I don't know what would happen to it. So.
Yes.
Could the defense funding be, re-signed into law? But as you said, since it's renewed every year by a different bill.
Well,
if this was repealed.
I have a tendency not to really trust Congress to move quickly on this thing. Last year they only passed 43 bills, and most of them just renamed post offices. So to trust them to renew this bill in a timely manner such that we keep our defense operating and functioning so we can counter terrorists and keep the seaways open, I just don't trust them to do that. And I think it's a risk that we cannot afford to take. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, can we get a 2-minute subsequent speech in the program? You bring the amendment forward. Yeah, yeah. And then pass here.
Can it pass here? Which one?
Okay.
Yeah, it passed here. It passed here.
All right, the amendment is to specifically repeal the indefinite trial without detention, leave everything else. Do you want to clarify?
Basically, what we're trying to do is we're leaving the funding part alone, the money for defense, and we're just repealing the part that violates our rights, the part that says that people can be detained without trial, and all of that stuff that the first thing we talked about.
All right, is that clear? All right, all of those in favor of this amendment, please rise.
I can do this. What?
Yeah. Okay. All right, please be seated. Yeah.
What was it?
All those opposed?
It's pretty much to leave all the spending in there and just repeal the detain part. Okay.
All those abstain?
Do you need to take that to the amendment?
All right. All right, thank you. We will run this over to the Senate and see what happens.
We should just be texting them.
All right, do we have a 2-minute subsequent pro speaker? Yes. Ben. Whoa.
As of right now, with the amendment being passed, there is to support, not to support this bill. Right now, the NAA authorizes, as he said, the arrest of anybody because President Obama pointed a finger at you and said the T word. Terrorist. Arrest him. Throw him in jail. Don't tell him what he did. He knows what he did. I know you know what you did. And you know, we're not going to even let him see a lawyer. He doesn't need a lawyer. He should just sit there in Gitmo and think about what he's done. That'll teach you from me calling you a terrorist. America to be run into our country is reprehensible to the extreme. It is an evil that has not been seen since the days of monarchy and rule by decree. When the executive branch takes over the powers of both the legislative and the judicial, there is nothing stopping it from controlling literally everything in your lives, crushing all dissent under the label of terrorism. I urge you, all of you, to vote for this repeal of the NAA. It's
Mr. Speaker, is the Speaker aware that
concern? But the thing is, under this law, even a journalist covering a trial or what constitutes a trial under the NAA could be considered a terrorist and could be taken into custody. And it has happened. And it will continue to happen.
All right, thank you. All right, sorry, we're battling amendments right now, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, yes, a 2-minute subsequent speech for the opponents. Yes, by us. All right, the chair recognizes Bayam for 2 minutes.
All right, everybody, I'm Young Choi from Santiago High School. There's a problem with this bill. Without the amendment, it does what Matthew Cohen said it would do. It takes away a critical portion of our defense budget away from us. But with the amendment, it does nothing. Because you see, the Supreme Court has already ruled that the writ of habeas corpus, i.e. the right to trial, is an undeniable right to all individuals within the United States. In other words, no, the president cannot just look at someone and go, T-word, and they'll go, jail, Guantanamo, let's go, not seeing you again. We can't do that. The Supreme Court has already literally told the Congress and the President that that is not constitutionally viable. And we all know that the Supreme Court can already line-item veto. That is to say, if the Supreme Court rules a part of a bill unconstitutional, that part of the legislation is no longer enacted. So essentially, with the amendment, this bill does nothing. Without the amendment, it does something that basically just cripples our defense budget. In either instance, it's not something that I think is A, necessary, nor B, good for our country. Thank you. I yield my time to questions.
Given that this provision in the bill is like that, let me give the president just supersede the Supreme Court and just continue doing what he wants to do?
Okay, this is an era of mass media where, we all heard the NDA and there was a massive freak out. Every individual in the United States was like, oh my God, he's going to take away our rights, he's just going to say the T word and all my Muslim friends are going to disappear forever. Like, yes, I heard these things. These are literal things I heard.
Sabrina.
Okay, so. See what happens eventually.
Brian Kaplan. And from the House, it's Chris Buchanan. From Committee 3, if the Senate was Kevin Chon, and the House was Matthew Cohen.
Could you just straighten it out and everything? Could you just straighten it out and everything?
From Committee 4, the Senate was Tuba Ali, and the House was Daniel Hamidi. From Block 2, Committee 1, the Senate was Sarah Charton, and from the House was Matthew Cohen. For the sake, because we don't have a main gavel, do you want to take one? Sorry. From Committee 2, the Senate was Sabrina Lieberman, and the House was Victor Wright. From Committee 3, the Senate was Samantha Racinos, and the House was Remy Schumann. In Committee 4, from the Senate, it was Jack Romain from Crespi, and the House was Chad Sorrell again from Santiago. From Block 3, Committee 1, the Senate was Maddie Wilson, and the House was Alan Chen.
Who else is running?
In Committee 2, the Senate was Lilia Besasis, and the House was Simran Chadha. From Committee 3, the Senate was Kira Woods, and the House was Jimmy Madigan. From Committee 4, the Senate was Vignesh Iyer from Whitney, and the House was Dallas Thompson. In the Artivism debate of capitalism versus communism, capitalism won, and the best speaker was John Abutas. In the debate regarding countrywide debate regarding gun control, the resolution failed 1 to 85 to 10. The best speaker was Kevin Gu from University High School. And in the debate regarding regarding the Arab Spring, the resolution passed 44 to 10 to 11, and the best speaker was Chad Surratt from Santiago. And per Nima's request, happy birthday, Alex Wild. Another round of applause for our best speakers, please.
Alright, is Greg Crater in the room? Alright, we're going to move on to our state declarations of candidacy for Speaker of the Assembly, Lieutenant Governor, and Governor. And then after that, we're going to show a short Spring State promo and then also recognize the individuals that had their bills passed in the full House and the full Senate and will have their legislation move forward into the real world politics. So with that, Grant?
Hi, everybody. So what I'd like to ask now is that all the persons running for state office, please come to the front of the room, that side of the room. And in this order, first the speaker candidates, then the lieutenant governor candidates, then the governor candidates, and if you guys could get into alphabetical order by your last name, that would be great.
Put it there.
All right, so we're going to start with our speaker candidates. First up, each candidate will have 3 minutes to give their speech. First up is Daniel Committee.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Hamidi. I attend Valencia High School, and I'm running to be your next Speaker of the Assembly. In addition to serving as Valencia High School Vice President this year, I have served as Director of Congressional Activities under our current Speaker of the Assembly, Nicole Michelson. As Director of Congressional Activities, I've established several youth advisory boards throughout Southern California for you to have your voice heard in the real political spectrum. The reason I'm running to be your next Speaker of the Assembly is really simple. I love getting you involved in politics. I love fighting the apathy that our current political system has placed upon the youth. My entire platform is going to encompass different ideas of how to introduce JSA students into the real world. Because until we can fight that system, until we have our voices heard, my job will not be done. I can't wait to talk to as many of you as possible in the upcoming couple of months and get as many ideas from you. I really, really, really have appreciated getting to know all of you that I know. I'm really excited to get to know as many more of you because JSA is honestly like the best thing ever. And it's just such an amazing network for us to meet each other and form those friendships. And I love JSA. So, I encourage you to vote for experience, vote for passion, and vote Hamidi for Speaker. You can totally follow me on Twitter. I also have a Facebook, and then my website is Hamidi, Hamidi, that's Ham I Die without the E at the end. For the number 4 speaker.weebly.com. Thank you so much, I can't wait to see you.
right, next up, also running for Speaker of the Assembly is Derek Nguyen.
Hello, I'm Derek Nguyen from Colonel Delmar High School, and I'm running for Speaker of Assembly. And if I'm elected by the people of JSA, it will be my utmost pleasure to fulfill your needs and fulfill my duties to JSA. That's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Next up, running for Lieutenant Governor, Matthew Cohen.
My fellow JSAers, my name is Matthew Cohen. Today, I am here to announce my candidacy for the office of the Lieutenant Governor. Today, I am here to thank you for giving me this opportunity, and today I am here to announce my proclamation for reform, because reform is just what I'm going to do. I will reform the SoCal state by increasing outreach, improving representation, and finally revolutionizing the Senate. I will make sure that everyone knows what is going on inside JSA. Right now, only Cabinet knows what the heck this SoCal administration has been up to. Under my direction, I will change this by utilizing the SoCal website and creating directors of public relations whose sole job will be to make sure everyone is in the loop and nobody is left behind. Government is of, by, and for the people. But the way the SoCal government is currently run, it just ain't so. As Lieutenant Governor, I will represent you by creating convention feedback forms and debate proposal forms that allow you, the people, to have greater control over the SoCal state. Senate reform is something that gets mentioned every year, and yet every year, not much happens. I will reform the Senate by creating a Senate page on the SoCal website where you give us ideas and we turn it into legislation. Secondly, I will pass a short but comprehensive FEC bylaw. Finally, I will increase transparency by releasing the meeting minutes and writing monthly Senate updates. This is the people's house. You have the right to know what is going on. If you're still having doubts about voting for me, you should know this. I never quit until the job is done. Under my leadership of the Expansion Department, we have created 27 new chapters that have added over 300 new tax-paid members. Let me be clear when I say this. This year was the most successful year of expansion in the history of the junior state of America. I will use the same diligence and tenacity when you entrust me to become your next Lieutenant Governor. And this brings me back to where I began. You are the reason why JSA is great. You have never given up on JSA, and that is why you do not need another Lieutenant Governor that will give up on you. I guarantee you that if you elect me, I will remain steadfast in my values, your voices will be heard, and the state of our union, of our 3 regions, will always be strong. Vote Matthew Cohen for Lieutenant Governor. Vote for reform.
Next up, also running for Lieutenant Governor, we have Joel Rosenthal.
Gentlemen, ladies, my fellow statesmen, my name is Joel Rosenthal, and I stand before you today, not with posters, not with signs, but with the only thing that matters. I am here to speak to you about something of the utmost importance, something more compelling than my devilish good looks, something with the power to shape nations, your voice. As many of you may know, I love to make use of my voice, but on Friday, I had to sacrifice my vocal cords in favor of my hand. I portrayed a deaf person in a theatrical production of Runaways, and this was how I began my conversations.
Hi, my name is Hubble, and I only speak sign language. Now, I'm not fluent in sign language, so don't ask me to teach you how to sign obscenities, but trying to communicate without words has taught me something profound. That every individual, be they deaf, mute, or just plain shy, has a voice. And that is what I love so much about JSA. It is an organization that allows young adults of all races, creeds, colors, and sexual orientations to come together not as a bunch of kids, but as a body of statesmen in order to share our voices and make them heard. And as Lieutenant Governor, it is my goal to make sure that your voice has the greatest possible effect on JSA. As new members know, it can often be challenging and confusing to break into JSA and to learn how it works. But new members and chapters, you are our most valuable asset. And so we must make it as easy as possible for you to become involved and active in JSA. We need to add a block to every state conference for new JSA members to learn what JSA is, how it works, and why it's so great. I'd like to revise the current new chapter guides to make them more readable and comprehensive, create a new section on the SoCal State website just for new chapters and those interested in JSA, and start a video series on YouTube on topics for new junior statesmen, from rules of debate to how to stay classy at dances. And to make that information more accessible for the rest of us, we should print the SoCal State Constitution on every booklet so that at a glance, you can know exactly how your JSA government is run. If you have ways to improve JSA, I want you to be able to propose initiatives which would go directly to the SoCal State Senate. And finally, I think that our parties at Winter Congress should not be the national parties constantly bickering in Congress, which don't represent the views of most junior statesmen, but parties as George Washington envisioned, created by us in response to the issues that we find important. I'm speaking before you now to tell you that I am running for my candidacy as Lieutenant Governor of the SoCal State of JSA. Thank you.
Next up, running for Lieutenant Governor. Running for Lieutenant Governor, Jessica Shin.
Hi everyone! Okay, so my name is Jessica Shin, and I'm running for your Lieutenant Governor. Some of you may not know me. You probably have seen me running around like a chicken with my head cut off through the corridors of the conventions or hiding away in a little corner with my laptop. And that was my job this year. I was your Southern California Convention Coordinator. But to talk about who I am now, I need to go back to who I was before, when I was like that geeky freshman everyone talks about. Well, when I was a freshman, I was like a lot of you here today. I joined a lot of clubs. I tried to make my mark. And then one day, my friends were starting the Young Dems, the Young Democrats. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have it at your school today. And that was completely foreign. I was like, yeah, that's cool. I mean, why do I have anything to be against it? But then later on, it completely irritated me, to put it into layman's terms, because then they started going on to propaganda, and they started saying, Democrats for the win, Republicans suck, they're fascists, whatever. And I mean, I may not be a Republican, I may not be an independent, I may not even be a Democrat. But what pissed me off the most was that there was not equal representation. And then I started to think, I was like, this is a true story, by the way. I'm not fooling or joking with you guys today. I started to think, why not start a club called ACT, America's Congressmen of Tomorrow. And I was like, in this club, we're gonna have like a whole group of multitudes of parties, from like the Libertarians to the Independents to the Green Party. And then with that club, I thought that we could have equal representation for us all. And that's my cheesy story of how I got into JSA, because after I started having that idea and telling it to everyone, like a little freshman I was, a junior was like, hey, that sounds like JSA. And I was like, what's JSA? And that's how my story began. And that's really personal to me, because when I came to Winter Congress as my first convention, I knew no one. I sat in the corner and I ate lunch by myself. And to go up to this place today and to show that with great power comes great responsibility. And as your convention coordinator this year, I tried to...
So it's linked, right? Hey, it's linked, right? so I can say your name. I don't have to worry. Testing, 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 test, test.
Okay.
Testing, testing, testing. Nope. It's not connected yet. Why?
You guys, I totally planned this.
I'll check it out right now.
What is this coming from?
I have to make do with what I have, right? Are you good in the other room? Are you good in the other room? Well, okay, so I wanted to go off and say that as your convention coordinator, I had a plan. I don't have the last year's agenda with me right now, and I wish I did, but I don't know. I looked at last year's agenda, and I was like, what is this? I need to fix this, because when I was at Winter Congress at my first convention, I didn't know what the heck the House or the Senate was, or what a bill was. I knew what a bill was. But with that, I wanted to get people more involved. I wanted people to know JSA as a JSA I found out. And I think with this agenda here today, and I hope you guys can see it, I tried to incorporate new things. I had new activities like JSA karaoke last night. It was so much fun, you guys. And then I worked with Vinny constantly to do the best speaker ballot, the best speaker voting online. And I know some people loved it with the apps. And then I started doing the QR codes. And from that was my plan. And now I have a new plan to be your LTG. Please check my plan, not my platform, at jshinforltg.com. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you, guys!
And now your candidates for governor. First up, Paul, and am I going to get your last name right? Iskajian? Oh, I got it. Okay.
Hello, fellow junior statesmen. My name is Paul Iskajian, and I would like to announce my candidacy for governor of the Southern California Junior State. I joined JSA in my freshman year, following the footsteps of my older siblings. And from day one, I knew that I wanted to play a bigger role in JSA. I was able to do exactly that this year as your current director of Livestream. Along with being your director of Livestream, I've been my school's chapter president for 2 years. I'm the ASB vice president at my school, and I'm a youth commissioner on the City of Montebello's Youth Commission. Serving in these positions has taught me the lessons to lead this organization to its full potential. This year, we have hit records at all our conventions and in expansion, but we can't stop this progress now with the new cabinet coming into power. As governor, I would focus my efforts in strengthening the regions, providing our chapters with the resources that they need, and continuing to improve on technology. With strong leadership in the regions, our chapters can thrive. They could become a greater part of our state. But the regions can't do everything. That's why the state needs to provide help to all the chapter presidents to make sure that they're getting the resources that they need. As expansion hits record numbers this year, we need to make sure that all these new chapters are being integrated easily, but we can't forget about the existing chapters. We need to make sure they're getting the help that they need as well. And this year we've had a lot of improvements in technology, and we need to ride on this wave of improvement in technology, improving the live stream, improving the website, improving the app, because they definitely could be better. Finally, I like to say that JSA is about people. JSA is about being the people by making your voices heard. And making our voices heard should not be limited to the bills we pass at Winter Congress. JSA should give the opportunity to people to voice their opinions directly to their elected officials. Everybody should hear our voices, even those on cabinet. And that is why I promise to make cabinet more accountable to the people, by giving you, the junior statesmen, the ability to go onto our website, to leave any comments, any concerns that you have about how JSA is being run, and I promise that those will not be overlooked. Thank you. You can visit my website at paulforgovernor.com. I will be making a Facebook page soon and a Twitter account. Thank you.
Next we have, also running for governor, Sabrina Lieberman.
belief that everyone in JSA has a spark. It's that moment in your mind that you know, whether it was in freshman year or sophomore year or junior year, or I hope it wasn't in senior year, that you knew that this was the organization that you were supposed to be a part of. It could have been the grandeur of an opening session, an extraordinary debater, or an exceptionally thought-provoking question that made you think that these are the people that you want to surround yourself for a weekend, for months, or for the rest of your life. Now, I had that JSA spark, luckily for me, it was in freshman year, and it was on a thought talk on freedom of religion. And I have to give a shout out to the moderator, obviously, Mr. Spencer Favell, who graduated 2 years ago. And so throughout the entire thought talk, there were three things that really struck out to me, and they really are representative of the entire state as a whole. So one thing that Spencer did that was truly extraordinary was how everyone was equally represented. He had a wonderful command of the room where he could just know who'd spoken too many times and who was having those side conversations so they really doesn't deserve to be called on. He had an immense respect for every incorrect argument and would say, well, so you're trying to say this, right? And just make it sound a little bit better, but exactly, and the person would just nod and be so proud that their voice was heard and recognized. Also, he promoted cooperation and community by telling everybody that they should speak up and be involved, and really just to promote a sense of togetherness. It was incredible. I saw girls in hijabs and girls with crosses and boys with talit and tzitzit, all talking together about freedom of religion, which is a very difficult subject with with very religious students. So it is with this representation, respect, and cooperation that I have been serving the Angeles region thus far, and that is exactly how I plan and intend to serve the state next year. Now, in addition to this blanket idea of representation, respect, and especially cooperation, I'd like to introduce the most revolutionary campaign JSA has ever seen. And I'll tell you why in a sec. So, I was at a JSA Leadership Summit this summer, and I had the pleasure of being asked who was my ideal statesman. Now, we have hundreds of statesmen pass through here, and that's a lot of people. And, you know, immediately this person came to my mind. This person has the authenticity of someone that I'd like to know forever, the kindness of Mother Teresa, and a great respect for every JSAer here. So, for the first time ever, I'd like to introduce the lieutenant gubernatorial campaign of Sabrina Lieberman and Matthew Cohen. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing you throughout the campaign season. Thank you.
Our next candidate for governor, Chris Van Dam.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Van Dam, and I'm here to run your Southern California governor. I'm going to be real with all of you. I'm announcing for the highest position in the state because I want to be a leader that focuses back on you. I don't want to be a governor who's trying to pull you unwillingly in my direction. I want to be a leader who could rely on and provide support for your chapters and get involved in this organization whose goal it is to make us the leaders and statesmen. You may have heard before that our chapters are the backbone of what we come here to create. Though you have the chance and responsibility to build your own chapters, it's our job at the state to give you the materials you need to do this. With Cabinet, I like to make a database of all the debates from our conventions, so you don't have to go 1 week without having a really engaging thought talk, a really engaging debate. I hope to continue the chapter expansion program in Cabinet as well, which successfully extended our reach and closed the gaps between schools that actually have chapters. To be completely honest, I'll have my platform up on Facebook this weekend. But I really encourage you to listen to what these candidates have said. They all have these great plans for you. And, I mean, like I said, I'm running for the highest position in the state. But that doesn't make it my state. There's what, like 600 of you out here? And who am I to say that I have more ideas in quality and quantity than all of you combined? So let's talk. Come up to me, come up to any of these candidates. Find out who's going to be the best representation of you and what you want to create in this organization. Because we make our plans, we have our platforms, but in the end, your vote is going to be the one that counts. Thank you.
That concludes the candidate announcements. Next, here's Juliana.
All right, thank you, candidates. It's going to be a really exciting campaign season. All right, so kind of our final order of business, and this is kind of why we're all here in these committees and in the full House and the full Senate, is to announce the bills that passed in both the House and the Senate and will continue on. And so when I call the bill, if you're the two sponsors, could you come up and light up over here? We'd like to take a picture and all that good stuff. So, and we can give applause to each of these because they are all so equally amazing. All right, so a bill to eliminate teacher tenure. Big round of applause. An amendment to legally recognize same-sex marriage. A bill to allow homosexual blood donations. A resolution to add picketing at funerals to the legal definition of harassment. And last but certainly not least, a bill to legalize marijuana. All right, so if you guys could all gather up over there. Tracy, are there any other closing announcements?
No, I'd like to have
All right, so Compton High School, after closing session adjourns, please meet outside. And with that, this concludes Winter Congress 2011. Are there any motions on the floor? All those in favor? All those